What's happening in Minnesota is terrifying for the rest of the NHL, as not only are they sitting second in the Central Division right now, but their prospect pool is showing out to be one of the better pools in the entire NHL, with Zeev Buium dominating college hockey on the verge of setting history. Danila Yurov, one of the top KHL prospects, officially now set to come over. And former first-round pick Charlie Stramel, after a brutal D+1 year, is having an unbelievable run with the #1 college team. There is a lot we got to get into on the Minnesota Wild prospect front coming up on this episode of Hat Trick HQ, so make sure you stick around. But guys, we got something big to ask for you. We are so close to 10,000 subscribers, just about 100 subscribers away. That's a massive goal for the channel. So if you enjoy what you see, you want to stay up to date on all the latest NHL news from around the league, hit the subscribe button down below. It's completely free. You won't regret it, I promise. Mark, we got a lot of guys to get into in this video, but who better to start with than our boy, let's say Zeev Buium. Let's start with Zeev Buium, because this guy has been unbelievable. He was the first NCAA defenseman in over a decade to have a 50-point season, and he's on pace to do it again. Right, that'd be the first time since at least 2000 that a defenseman gets back-to-back 50-point seasons in the NCAA. We saw him play at those World Juniors. We saw how good he looked. We saw that clip in the intro. What have your thoughts been on Zeev Buium right now? It's looking like a steal of a draft pick, and the fact they traded to get him is just looking unreal.
Looking at Buium, the biggest thing is you can see that 11 teams made a mistake. Maybe not 11 because you do have the #1 overall pick, but so many teams passed up on someone that's looking like a franchise defenseman, a guy that would fit perfectly on this team next to someone like Brock Faber as well. This is going to be a polarizing player once he joins the Minnesota Wilds, and it's going to show the other 10 or 11 general managers what they missed out on a guy like this. Just looking at the scouting report coming into his draft here, you can pause, you can work your way, keying a clean breakout, activating into the rust, his intelligence, deception, skill, even creativity in part of the game. He's efficient everywhere. This guy looks like a future player that's going to put up a lot of points, and it goes back to the fact that he's about to be the first player since the 2000 going in and putting up 50 points in back-to-back seasons. Looking at this, do you see him joining this Wild team and maybe coming in as the future offensive defenseman they are kind of looking for at the moment?
I mean, anything on the left side would be great. I mean, well, any good defenseman's always good. I mean, you do have some good left-hand shot defensemen there, of course, with a guy like Brodin, a guy like Middleton, but Zeev Buium looks like he brings a dynamicism to this offense that is, I don't want to say severely lacking, because it's really not. But the idea of pairing him with a guy like Brock Faber and having that be your duo for the future is unbelievable. Now, again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself with the Zeev Buium hype, but it seems like everything he's doing should translate to the NHL. I mean, he's fluid, he's smart, he doesn't make a ton of mistakes. There's just so many elements of his game that I think will translate very well to the NHL and very well to a pairing with no matter who he's with, even if it's not with Faber right to start, because very well might not be. Maybe he finishes this college season, plays a couple games with Minnesota at the end of the year, maybe the playoff run, who knows? He could start in the second, third pairing like a lot of college guys sometimes do, but I think he's going to be one of those guys that as soon as he sets foot on the ice, you're going to notice him. But one more guy just like that, Mark's another guy we got to talk about. He's been a hot topic for the Wild recently, and that's Danila Yurov. The Wild have this ability to take a look at all these Russian prospects and just pick the right ones. Now, he is a former first-round pick in 2022, so it's not like he's a sleeper pick like Kaprizov was. However, this guy has been unreal. Last year, 49 points in 62 games, cementing himself as one of the better offensive players on his team, a very solid KHL scorer all across the board. He won a championship with Magnitogorsk last year. Now, you see the points dipping this year, but Mark, there's a reason for that. He is now officially set to come to North America, and this was the plan heading into the season, but it's now official. And as we know in Russia, sometimes the minutes get diminished when players start to say, hey, I'm not sticking around long term. But Danila Yurov, to me, is one of those guys that's going to come in and immediately make a huge impact on this roster. Like, the Wild have a lot of guys up and down. They got a guy like Kuznetinov, you got Kaprizov, now you got a guy like Yurov coming over. I mean, where do you anticipate him sliding into this lineup? I don't see him being a top-line player right away, but just watching him, his ability on the offensive end of the ice, pretty much all across the board, is unbelievable. He's a middle six guy for sure, and I think he might even be pushing top 6 minutes pretty soon after he gets over to Minnesota.
Well, I mean, looking at his KHL stats, like you said, he was so productive last year, putting up 21 goals in 62 games, 49 points. Like you said, we won't get into the politics of the KHL. And of course, we've seen this with players. Demidov currently there, Michkov. These players do lose ice time when they're planning on joining the NHL. But the biggest thing is, I could see Yurov just coming in and joining this middle six immediately. We see the production from him in the KHL. The KHL is a league filled with ex-NHL players, players that want to join the league, or players that are planning on staying in Russia that could play in the NHL. This production is outstanding for someone just 21 years old. I do think he's the type of player that can maybe slide in on the wing in this middle six. He comes in at a cheap cap hit and does help the Wild now and in the future. Could you see him maybe joining the top six though?
Oh yeah, I mean, like absolutely. I mean, look, straight up, he has the skill to be a top six player right now. First line, hard to crack. Like, look, the Wild's top six is pretty deep as is, and there's room for some messing around. There have been some injuries too. But I will say, as soon as the opportunity presents itself, he will be a top six player. That's my opinion, at least. Maybe some people agree, maybe some people don't. Let me know down in the comments. But I have such a high opinion of Yurov that I think he'll force his way into the top six sooner, definitely, rather than later. But Marco, there's one last guy that we got to talk about in this video because we only got a certain amount of time, and I want to transition to Charlie Stramel. This guy, look. Charlie Stramel picked 21st overall in 2023, largely due to his size, his large size, 6'3", now weighing, some reports have him at closer to 225. He was a big guy, came off a solid year at the University of Wisconsin, 12 points in 33 games. The talent was there, but the year after, it just didn't quite work out. Now, there have been some problems with Stramel, of course. He joined the University of Wisconsin because of the coach that was there at the time, but that coach left, and the new coach, Stramel kind of fell out of favor with the new coach. He didn't go back to the national development team, which is something you usually see them go back to. You usually don't see them fall off the radar. So there was a lot of worry about Charlie Stramel, but Mark, this season, 21 points in 24 games. He's the second leading scorer on the #1 team in the country. And not only is he still able to use his physicality, his big size to barrel over players. As you can see here, the Wild are happy. They had representatives in Buffalo to watch him play up close over the weekend. He looked like a totally different player. He's able to use his strength, but now is also starting to put that together with very high quality scoring chances. He's putting together that offense that the Minnesota Wild saw in him. And a lot of people, I know a lot of Wild fans, even myself at times, were kind of like upset. And I don't want to say have given up on Charlie Stramel, but 8 points in 34 games is rough. But to see this bounce back this season has been an incredible revelation for Wild fans, especially considering the other young guys that they have coming up along with him now.
And I mean, the biggest thing you're looking at this team, Moose Foligno, he's eventually going to get old enough where maybe they move on from him, or maybe he retires. Getting in another big body that can work the puck in front of the net. We've seen from this that he had 7 shots, a lot in close, high quality chances. This is a stereotypical power forward the Minnesota Wild can bring into this team. Yes, you want elite talent that can go score like Kaprizov, a generational talent, but you still need the guys to do the dirty work. And the biggest thing with Stramel is he went out and just spoke on his confidence. I think my confidence is back. I'm confident with my line mates as well. I got some chemistry going. The team's playing great, and it's always easy to play when the team's doing well. This confidence you can see just going through the lineup. 8 goals, 13 assists for 21 points after a disappointing year in Wisconsin, only putting up 8 points in 34 games. Could you see him joining this Wild team maybe in 2 to 3 years? Because he does seem more like a project at this moment after having a slow start to his college career. But could you see him come in and maybe replace one of these bigger bodies like Foligno or even Hartman, who might not be the biggest player but plays bigger, and replace a player like this?
I mean, I would say yes. I think the upside is there. It's just hard to tell. Like with big guys, it takes them a lot more time to develop usually. So that's what we're seeing right now in his draft plus one. He's telling me hesitate a bit with that answer, but yes. I mean, I think right now he's proven himself as someone that could definitely play with the Wild. We've seen far worse college stats from far smaller players, like not even bigger guys that, should take longer to develop. But the fact that we're seeing everything that was seen in him at the draft finally manifest itself now, I think so. I think a couple of years in Iowa will do him very good. See how the numbers go along there. I'm not penciling him into a middle 6 or top 6 role or anything, but I am saying that he's back on track to be worth that draft selection in the first round. But I want to hear what you guys have to say about this down below. The prospect pool for the Wild just seems to be getting better by the day, and we could not be more excited. But that'll do it for this episode of Hat Trick HQ. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We're so close to 10K, and if you made it this far into the video, I think we've earned that subscription. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Mark Pye. We'll catch you in the next one.